Okay, we're back down in the shop, and I want to, before we go any further, I got a bunch of stuff in the mail today, and some of it is really neat. I want to share this with you. And this is one of the things I just love about doing videos. I just love opening the mail every day, seeing what people have sent me, and boy, certainly I've been the recipient of more than my fair share of cool and neat stuff, and I'm always willing to return the favor, so keep sending it in. These came in today from Ken Clickman, and I really have to say this is an unusual looking plane. I'm not sure if it's an RC plane or from the photos, but he's been watching some videos, he's enjoyed them. I'm assuming that this is an RC plane. Maybe I'm assuming wrong. But anyway, he said he did get some good information off the tapes, and he's ready to start doing some carving and hollowing. You know what, this really looks like a tsunami with dihedral. Ken didn't send a real descriptive letter. In fact, it's a short note. But I'm glad he did send it, and I'll send him a return of some of the information. Now, I see what he's trying to do here. I think I get the picture. He wants to make the filleting out of a solid piece of wood. He's got the scoop ready to cut. Yeah, it looks like it's got maybe it's an optical illusion, but it looks like, the reason I said it looks like an RC plane, it looks like it has dihedral in the wing. Again, I'll hope to hear back from Ken soon. Here's a picture of his shop, and he certainly looks like he's got a real nice big shop. But, and as a little tip here, as anybody sends me some pictures, it's really neat if you can send a little more information. Ken, we're going to be sending you out a couple of photos today, and I look forward to seeing this when this model is finished. I assume it's a tsunami. Now this, I assume, I'm going to read these off, and I do have a lot of captions here. This is from Rudy Kazuti Ryback. Rudy. And he's having his own Monday nights at his house. Anyway, it looks like they're working in his garage. They got a glass table, just some of the things I can see from here. Number 1, chipmunk and silver, and that's Rudy's chipmunk, and it sure looks like he's paid the price. Sand that silver out, sucker. Number 2, Gieske Nobler with modified nose construction. That looks a lot like Ken Thompson's Gieske Nobler, and again, a real nice plane. Number 3, another shot of the Gieske Nobler. There we have Robert Sabatino's Nobler. Hey, now one thing neat. Today, this morning, John Brodak stopped at the house. And no, I gotta go through these pictures anyway. Now this is his 7-month-old yellow lab teddy bear. Now here he is trying to start a Super Tiger 60. I have to tell you, Rudy, my wife is allergic to dogs. I would have 10 dogs if it wasn't for her being allergic to dogs. But anyway, also some pictures. And these are back from the pits. Again, there's Rude Dog, Dwayne's plane, the bi-slob. What contest would be complete without a bi-slob? And it looks like a nice 38 special here. A real nice 38 special. That's Andy Lee's bi-slob, by the way. Dick Kurth, Extended Wing, Flying Fool. Dick Kurth, needless to say. If anybody has anything bad to say about Dick Kurth, or if they don't think Dick Kurth belongs in the Hall of Fame, they get a spanking. That's the latest thing. They're getting a spanking. Anyway, Rudy, thanks a lot for the pictures, guy. I don't know if you can really see this in the picture. This is a picture of Giorgino, and Giorgino, needless to say, is the one that made the, well, we've named the pilot after him since he made the pilot. But we were talking the other night, we had a great conversation about the cannons, and it was the night that I broke the cannons. He said he used to, the wing comes off of this plane, by the way, but he broke the cannons too. Oh man. George, I really appreciate sharing these pictures with us. This is a beautiful Spitfire. Got the cannon details, exhaust manifolds, 3-bladed prop. Yeah, I love all Spitfires. I'm sure Adamusco loves these too. Great old photo. Now George also sent in, George loves railroad stuff too. I've been sending him some railroad stuff, so check this out. Now this is what I love about having modeling friends through videos. This is the old, I guess, let's see if we can find a date on this. February 1960. My God, I was a young guy then. I was going to name a stunt ship Indefatigable. I need somebody out there to look this up in the book, look it up in the dictionary, and tell me exactly what it means before I name a stunt ship after it. Anyway, it's named after a British carrier, the carrier Indefatigable. Anyway, look at this. Oh my God, I finally get one. I've been promised this for so long. Sensational Mackie Stunner. I even was promised it by Mackie. He's promised to send me plans. I don't have them yet. And this is the original article. Oh man, I'm going to make a copy of this. Anyway, I am going to see Charles Mackie, I hope, at the Nats, or if I ever get the VSC. And I really want, holy cow, look how young he is here. What I really want to do, I'm going to bring him out a set of Spitfire plans, and I know he has plans to this. Great plane, really. Boy, talk about if you're going to build a nostalgia plane. Nicely detailed set of plans, really scale looking. Heard from Adamusco today, and he's already working on the I-beam wing for next year's Spitfire. Already got that half designed, half ready. Got the computer grinding away in his mind. He's making smoke out of his brain. I know he's going to do it. Anyway. Real nice set of plans. Looking at things that you always can pick up ideas from. Whether this is an over and under lead out thing, that's kind of something neat. Maybe Joe could figure out a way we could do over and under lead outs, being we have to make up some kind of crazy tip. Maybe we could put 2 slots in it, and I don't know. Hey, that's what I have Joe for. Anyway, what I was saying before, I got to speak to John Brodak, and one of the things I think we're going to be working on, I hope anyway, is when he gets his first prototype Nobler kit, we're going to build it on video for him, and he's going to be able to include that right in the kit. And of course somebody will wind up with the plane, probably Rich Peabody, since he's offered to be part of the building of it. And we hope that you'll either be able to get copies from John Brodak direct, or obviously somebody's going to pirate them. I don't even have to ask. But anyway, even if you do, it's okay. That's what we're doing them for. And John Brodak, this is the first time I've really sat down and had a long talk with him. He's a hell of a guy. If you've never talked to him, call him up on the phone. He's definitely a cool guy. Just looking at the end of the Spitfire, there's no more pictures, but looking at some of the old things, I just love this. Look at this. 10-foot Albatross kit, $1.95. Oh, $7.50, I'm sorry. 10-foot, imagine what a 10-foot glider costs now. You've never seen old magazines. One of the things that they used to do in old magazines, I don't see it much anymore, is all these tips and tricks and there's always some little idea that that you can use. You never waste the time. You know, you buy these used magazines, and you get them probably, you know, for 50 cents or something. There's always a good trick or a tip in there. Look at this, the original Easy Just handle. Oh my God. What were these handles? 95 cents! Holy mackerel. 90. I pay more than that for the cable that's in the handle. Great handle, by the way. Great collector's item. Look at this. Look at this. Sterling Spitfire bubble canopy variant. Camo. Squadron markings. Cannons! They're on the plans, by the way. These guys were way ahead of me here. This would make a great nostalgia plane if you could locate a kit of this, replace the wood. A great. I had a couple of these too. Never really good quality, but they all flew good. And at old magazines, there's a wealth of inspiration, old things that ring a bell. Now, I had a couple of these Cox models, and oh my God, every time I'd loop one, the motor would come out, it'd break in half or something. But it's such a nostalgic trip to have these old magazines. George, I really appreciate you loaning this to me. Great. I remember building one of these and almost cutting my finger off. I had a glove on. I started the one motor, went to the other one, and the glove got caught in a prop and tore the nose off. Great memories, though. Anyway, all right, back to reality. Seafire time. Back to work, sucker. Thanks a lot, George. Okay, we got the Spitfire loaded up. We're going to take the Spitfire. It's a rainy day out there, so we're going to take the Spitfire down to this little show. And we'll get a couple minutes of footage if we can. We're expecting some people, Borellis basically, Ortizes and Serras, stop by here just to visit, hang out a little bit, and of course, check out the Seafire. And I guess this is, you know, if you never even got to fly the plane, it's just cool having it and standing around at night looking at it. Now, one of the things I've been doing lately, and I gotta share this with you. I know everybody in the world does this, believe me. They never admit it, but I sit here at my desk and I just sit here and look at this thing for hours on end. And it's a absolutely true story. One day I did talk to Ted Fancher years and years ago, and we were just throwing a bull on the phone. I said, "What are you doing, Ted?" He said, "Plane's on a rug right in front of me. I'm just sitting and looking at it, admiring it." And guess what? I was doing exactly the same thing. I had my plane sitting there. We were from 3,000 miles away looking at each other's, you know, looking at the plane we just built and angling, run up, moving a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. But I guess, hey, that's what this is all about, the fun. Thinking about summer days to come that we haven't lived yet, and the fun we'll share, the fun we'll have, whatever. Because in reality, the hobby is what you really make it. You're never going to make more of it than it is or less of it. You're always going to have the same amount of fun as you put back into it, whether you like it or not. So may as well enjoy it. Indefatigable. Hey, somebody that's been educated, find me out what that word means. Who could afford a dictionary around this house? A wife.
Why? You didn't need that picture. I love that picture.
Can I see it? Yeah, go ahead. Let's get him on the video.
What's going to be Wendy?
Look at this food. Hold it up, Joe.
That's a beautiful picture.
Isn't that gorgeous?
This is Lena Borelli.
Oh, I love that picture.
Fabulous picture. You should put that
Debbie,
up.
I want this picture.
That's how babies get kidnapped. You know, people show a picture and then boop, and that's it. So what do you think of this food, Carlos? I made all this food myself, you know. My wife didn't help at all.
Even this one is really cute.
Where's that Puerto Rican stuff, Joe? What are you guys doing?
Hey, did you get my pictures from,
No, you gotta give them to me.
No, I sent you the last pictures of the boat.
Oh, that's already Stunt News has them, yeah.
How'd you like that?
Good, good. I got a nice picture of Dick Kerr's biplane in there, too.
Wow, this is a new one?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel, Wendy. What are you trying to do, get into the Hall of Fame?
Nah.
Look at this plane.
Where's the other one? In the car. We're going to take it to the show.
The show?
The thing.
Oh, okay.
You know what's going to be there? Augie's Big Corsair.
Really?
That thing when I was a kid he was flying at. All right, let's hear it, Joe. Not so good, right?
This is fabulous.
Do you think I should send the Puerto Rican guys a copy of this tape?
Yeah, the Hall of Fame.
Oh, Hall of Spitfires. Forget about the Hall of Fame. Look at this. Think Mike Rogers will be impressed?
No comment.
No comment. Case closed.
I love this. I love the bubbles here.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Holding them right in.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Look at these, what are these, machine guns?
Cannons, 50 millimeter cannons to scale.
I gotta show this to Peggy. That's cool.
Where's Peggy?
I gotta bring it down here. Oh, you built up the rudder, huh?
Yeah, to scale rib spacing and everything.
That is really dynamite.
Yeah, we're gonna take the other one down to the show.
Did Joe Adamusco build one of these too?
His is finished. It's in silver. But because he's, like he had problems with his back and stuff, so he never got to finish it.
Did he get himself another job?
No, not yet. Not yet. He's looking though. He's got a couple of hot leads.
Is he building a plane? Is this my husband's birthday present or something?
Yeah, I was gonna raffle it off tonight.
Did you even put a tow hook in?
Why do that? I'll win.
Carrier hook. It's a carrier plane.
See the tail wheel?
Oh, the tail wheel swivels.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
Wow.
Machine guns, cannons, rocket tubbers.
I don't think you should do that since I always win.
And the canopy slides forward and locks.
Oh
You
yeah.
might be sorry about that one. But Jimmy, if I won it, I'd give it to you.
Hey, listen, we're raffling off a Cardinal kit tonight. I'm gonna buy all the chances though to win my own kit back. I figure there's no way I can lose on that one then. So you think it's okay, Carlos? Is it up to your level of skill? Skill of fixing. See, I can't fix VCRs and you can't make a 5-bladed prop, so we're even.
No, I can't.
But you have a lot of money and I live in poverty, so here we are.
Right.
I like the lettering on the side, Fox.
Yeah. No, FXT. You know what that stands for?
FXT.
Fix it.
Fix it. Oh.
The other one is fuzzy and this one's fix it. Right for the crash repair guy, huh, Jimmy?
And he's got
Yep.
20/20 vision after having.
No, I read it. I thought that the symbol was a no, but it's not.
Well, it's close, Joe. Good thing you're not flying a Messerschmitt. You shoot your own guide. I didn't know. Had stars on it.
Yes, it's fabulous.
Yes, it is.
Major George Enoch. Huh?
Yeah, he made the pilot. He painted the pilot up. Some nice little pilot.
Josh painted the
The
punch out.
dash.
George Eno, yeah.
Cockpit.
George Eno. Professional modeler.
Who won it?
Tape.
Oh, I'll get it.
Yeah, where's your tape? By the way, we got to how long is... Oh, we don't have time to do it now.
10 minutes.
A few minutes.
No, but I don't have a VCR. They're making copies up there now.
Oh, you're making copy. Oh, forget it, because he's.
I'll mail it back. I'll make a copy and mail it back to
Well,
you.
Debbie's taking it tonight, so.
Oh, well, then you're done. Jim, just mail it to me.
Did you know he's gonna
Got pictures of Joe Ortiz's new house in Arizona where we're all going to go live when we get old. Now, here we are at the 95th Bomber Group.
Treasure of some years standing now,
These are all the things that are getting raffled
George
off.
Malinowski. And our secretary, Steve White. Steve.
Borgie Buffalano's Big Corsair.
And Mike Estella, who's supposed to be here tonight. Oh, there he is. He did arrive. Mike is our past president and is presently chairman of the membership committee.
Borgie, baby!
Anybody
Hey,
who wants to pay up to
You
do,
filed for citizenship yet or what?
take the money.
You got 2 weeks left,
Uh,
Yeah, see, tell them the story, Jimmy. You're the official winner of the China team T-shirt. Now, instead of having the FAI team sign it, we have Peggy and Joe, Debbie and Jimmy,
Oh, wait, a guy has to go to Carlos.
Carlos and Carla. That's right. All right, now don't get it dirty. Now, don't get it dirty. That's my official prize for tonight. I'm getting soaking wet here. Look, we're inside the building. Notice we're inside the building, and it's raining inside the building. Can you believe this? Look,
splashing. So the motto is, if you come to the Circle Burner dinner, I hope Noel, I hope you're watching this. They raffled off Steve DeJulia's Magnum kit. Look at the water coming in here, right on my table too. Notice that's why I don't have a seat. I'm soaking wet. All right, everybody, you're on national TV.
Oh, great.
Make sure thousands of copies of this will be going out to the evening news services. You got it. Augie, you got anything to say to the Immigration Service?
I got my green card at home.
An Italian that wins a knife. How convenient.
All we got to say is, when's the food coming?
Yeah, I agree.
This century or next?
You want to buy a T-shirt or an umbrella?
Want to buy a sandwich maker?
Yeah, show them the prizes. Look at this combination attic closeout set. Nothing but the best. Let's see what this table won. Mike, what did you win?
I got a mug and
A dish?
Fox 35.
A fox? Oh, the fox is good.
He got a basket of cheers. I gave this black
This guy comes all the way from California and wins a bottle of cheese. What else did they win? Nothing.
I'm disappointed I didn't win the donut maker.
Yeah, who won the donut maker?
Racing wheels.
I'm gonna go visit the winning table. Brent, what's up?
How do you wish to remunerate?
Say hello, Carl. Look, you're out of focus. Your nose is too big.
See my new glasses?
Yeah.
I can see.
So let's see what What did you win? Oh, you got the Brodak motor? And Brodak won my kit. There is a God. He has a sense of humor.
With a K&B 40.
You don't need that.
We're going to put an RC engine on it and wind this sucker up running 70% nitro.
Oh my God. Goodbye, Brodak motor. Obviously, this was the winning table. Look at what they won. The Glen Meadow Micro Brewery Award.
You could have had a seat at this table.
I know, and I'm sitting over there in the pouring rain. Stuff falling on my head. All my minoxidil's running in my eyes. I can't believe it.
Hey, you can go blind from that. Oh, no, that's the other one.
Oh, God. What did you win? Come on. Flying cloud appropriate.
Yeah, right.
Bucket of booze? Lots of booze.
Get the blinds.
Oh, yeah, and they won blinds. Where are the blinds? Oh, wow. The blinds.
There you go.
That's a nice blind. What are you going to put them in a fire? Look at it. There's a fireplace. It's behind the flag. There's a fire. What the hell are they doing with a flag in front of the fireplace? Look at the flag is 1,000 degrees. They're going to set our flag on fire.
It's not that bad.
It's not bad. You can't even touch it. What are you talking about? All right, let's see what are these guys doing up here?
Building your kit.
Larry, why don't you buy one of them and build a real man's plane?
That wood in there is so good.
Yeah, makes you hungry for a good kid, huh?
That's neat.
Look at this little guy. Look at the memorabilia here, all this moody art and stuff. Table didn't win anything this time around, Rich.
I won a gift certificate from
Oh, that's right. You won that thing, yeah.
John Misk. I won a blind reel from Proton Products. Mel won the Magnum kit. He won the
Well, I saw the Magnum kit deal. What is this, the wild card? I never saw. Was that an RC kit?
Yeah, but you can convert that to control line.
Well, somebody in our club will, yeah.
It'll do.
They can convert a Buick to control line.
You're going to apply the stop sign.
Woo! Oh, food is here. Time to quit. Boy, that'll change your altitude.
And a well done here.
Larry Scarenzi, newly retired, soon to be
I gotta get something.
soon to be have food poisoning. The latest honorary member of the Circle Burners, John Brodak. He was caught stealing a Cardinal kit.
I put all my tickets in there.
Oh, I don't trust him already. I don't think he came in a Volkswagen. He's leaving in a Cardinal. I don't know. One of us has been had. If he wins the Corsair, we're all in trouble. Anyway, there you have it. Time to eat. Time to get out of here. Okay, Kenny's over here, and I'm trying to give him a little bit of I don't know, how to balance four-blade prop lesson. We really didn't get this. I wanted to get this on the end of the video about the props, but hey, too bad. I put that up on a balance, Ken. Let's see how. There was so many things on these props. You need to do so much handwork before you even go to balance them. Now, you want to get. All right, we know this is the heavier blade, but also.
Not by much.
Okay, let's see. You've got to do it one set of blades at a time, so that in effect you're going to always wind up with, it's always going to be labor intensive unless you just luck out. The one you were working on, okay. Once you get two the same, but now you don't know if this one might be lighter, so they both have to be done. There's almost no way. It's like you just got to keep doing it. Always good to use a circular pattern. Try not to make the edges real razory sharp until you get it balanced where you're right on the edge of having it balanced. What'll happen if you start working the edges, the prop gets thinner and thinner and thinner and you don't realize it. They also don't have an accurate airfoil. You really have to put some of the airfoil in yourself as you're working them. Okay, a lot better. All right, you're sneaking up on it now. It just takes time. It's an incredible amount of time it takes to get these right. This is why Adam Usko doesn't ever want to balance props. He just gives them to me. And
I messed this up.
And now I give them to you.
Gross on slave.
Yeah, baloney. We'll see when a pizza gets here who's the slave and who's the tough guy. Now just keep working it. Ken's doing his props. He's got his silver sanded off here. Did you want to put some more silver on this today, Ken?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'll set the gun up for you. Yeah, this looks like it's sanded out. Now, you should be. This should be the last coat of silver. This is real nice. Even the caps come out nice. See how you just leave just a little bit of silver where you oh, geez. What? If you sand it all off, you haven't accomplished anything. If you leave it all on, you haven't accomplished. It's when it gets to just like this that you've got most of the flaws taken care of.
But when, if your thinking is right, it's almost an automatic process. Because I knew that I had my surfaces, before I covered them, they were as straight as I could make them.
Right.
So when I went back over these sections, I used a sanding block.
Right.
And fingers every place else.
The high spots you can pick up. You just run your hand up. Your hands are much more sensitive than your eyes to picking up little mistakes.
I really wanted that thing, this is an area I always look at on somebody's plane.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to look at that.
Yeah, like Jerry Sipra's plane would have this all sanded perfect, right? I mean, that's the bottom line here. The wheel pants. All right, I'll set up the compressor. I'll finish that prop. You've learned your lesson, and you better get sanded before it gets dark. Get some spraying done here. Getting hungry.
What, you mean you're going to finish the prop?
Let's see this finish now. A lot of activity here on Monday night. Tell me about it. Roberto Sabatino, no.
It's zip guard, water-based urethane.
Okay.
Over paper tissue. And then I used...
But this is silk span now, because guys like Noel Drindak are going to want to know. See, this is... And what did you use to hold the silk span down with?
Water-based urethane.
Water-based urethane.
One coated water-based. You sand it down.
Okay.
Then you wet the paper down. Put a little bit of the water base in the paper, and then put it on just like normal paper, and put a coat right on top of it.
Well, what do you think of this, George? Any good or?
No, it's all right.
It looks like it's holding in pretty good.
You gotta be very careful about dust, you know?
Let's take some 1200 sandpaper and sand that down. Let's see if you can buff it out.
Yeah.
See, it picked up a lot of dust. That's another problem. For a one-coat finish, though, that's pretty good.
The dust was the clear,
Yeah.
not the red. The red did not.
Go on there.
They dissolve that.
Just do a corner. We don't know if it's going to dissolve it. Do one corner so we'll still have a test piece. Experimental Finishes by Sabatino. And if it works, we'll go do Peabody's car. Hey, watch. You can look at this guy. Tripod man over here. There goes my tripod.
Not coming along.
Take it outside and drive your Harley over it a few
You'll be all over your
times.
paper by that time, by now, you know?
Somebody out there, mail me a new tripod. I'm out. Krug busted the tripod. No, just keep wetting out. When you sand, keep it wet. Let's see, it's either going to dissolve it right. No, it's not dissolving it.
Don't
Put a little on there. Come on, fool around. It's your plane. What do I down? Sand. Go, man. Go. Like you're giving somebody a haircut. There you go. Sand the shit out of it. Fool around. Okay. Get all that dust out when it's nice and flat, and we'll see if we can buff it out. If you can buff it out, perfect. But you know, you're going to have to keep track of the weight every step of the way and make sure you don't get into where you know, because that looks a lot like linoleum. You know, doesn't it have the look of like a
My plane, the linoleum plane.
No, I mean it's heavy. It looks heavy. Let me get look. I'll hold it down. Let me. You still got grain in there. Sand it some more. You got to get the grain out. And you got tissue on there. That's even worse.
I don't think you're gonna get the grain. I think the grain
Sure you will.
is in the
What you want to do is to get two of the same size pieces of wood and paint one, and then
No, you just get a guy like Sabatino in his
Wait,
plane and let him paint it. If it's too heavy, he's got to sand it all off, and we go have pizza. Oh, okay. Keep sanding. We want to see what this. He tried to buff this out even to see if it's going to do it. Well, I'm sure it's, you know, you're going to be able to paint the plane that way, but I don't know about the weight. That's my only, maybe we'll put that Gorms away. I don't know what the weight is. You know, there's only way to tell is by doing a plane. I wish you had a Prowler or something. This is a Brodak 40, K&D 40, and we're trying to determine if it's going to be possible that this thing is too nose heavy with the 40. I don't know. We're going to have to find out. Well, let's try to, wait, you got the plans with you? No plans.
There was no point on CG.
There's no CG on the plans? Okay.
I looked myself.
Okay. What did they give the tripod the last rites here? This was a perfectly functional tripod until Krug decided to rebuild it.
See, I told you. Gotta go on tape, see?
Oh, if Peabody was here, he'd be busting you. Oh my God.
and if Rick Noxky had any brains, you wouldn't have asked you to do it in the first place.
That's right. Look at a hammer. That's a $100 tripod. I thought you were gonna fix this like it's a delicate tool, a precision tool.
This is a big one.
Oh, Sabatino, is that sanding? Anyway, he's got a little fillet test. How is that sanding? Let me see. Yeah, see, you're gouging the wood. You see what you're doing here? You got to get a tool that's the right radius. Let me do this. Here's what we want to do. We want to try. We've abandoned the idea of using this K&B 40. It's too heavy for this airplane. The plane is super ultra thin and light and everything, so it's way too nose heavy. So we're gonna have Woody Midgley ship us down a Fox 35 and a Max S, so we can try those engines. We won't have it this week, but Robert can do his little fillet test now, which we did this little fillet test. I don't know how long ago. It looks real good. That's sanding beautiful. And it's the see the thing that's different is it's soft. When you sand it, you don't sand the wood around it, and this doesn't get sanded. It's nice. It's like liquid balsa wood. So let's try it. We don't know if it's going to be any good, but we have a perfect guinea pig here to try it on. So Robert Sabatino's guinea pig here. Okay, the world's first real-life test of Aeropoxy light. We did this little test about 2 videos back, or a little further. Robert was sanding away. Let's see what he's doing here. Essence of Emerald. Try to hold that prop on a the same angle for the whole time. Okay. No, take a paper towel. Got a towel there, George? Clean the thing off with the towel. Go slow, you're going too fast. You know, the epoxy needs time to set in there. Just clean the excess off. You could put tape on there, that's another way to do it.
Yeah, but that'll leave you a ridge, though.
Well, I don't like tape either, it just gets messy.
Yeah, but the tape...
After a while, the stuff's on the tape's on your hands.
You're gonna leave the thickness of the tape, too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and then you gotta sand that out. This way you blend it right. See, the most important thing when you do this, Robert, is that you hold the same angle. Because you'll get a different size, a different shape. Now wipe it clean. Alright. That looks okay. So you got this miracle finish now. We still don't know what this miracle finish is. What is the clear that's on here? What was the kind of clear that you had on this?
It was Krylon.
Krylon, okay.
Oh, that lens.
I just wish I knew what it was, although it really is thin, I have to say.
That's what I got.
The stuff is so thin, I can't imagine that that's real heavy. Guess we're going to find out. We want to take the gear off. It'll be a lot easier if you...
Do me a favor, Bob.
Krug, take the gears off.
Where's the element? I'm lost.
This material was, it sanded real nice, it dried real nice, and it was ultra light. Now I know for the Knoll Drindaks of the world that are very weight conscious, this might be something they want to experiment with. But this is an experiment right now. And the reason is, we've never done this on a plane. So, if the wing comes out of the body on the first flight, I think this will work.
SIG sells like a plastic insert that goes in here. It's glued in, you know? Bends around. It's like that triangular leather stuff you had at the
Yes. Yeah, oh, that's good stuff. The leather fillets? Oh, I wish I had more of them. That's old nostalgia. Used to make those leather fillets. Oh, man, will you put alphatic resin on leather? Well, that's what holds the skin to a real animal, you know? You don't see a lot of buffaloes running around, all of a sudden their ass falls off. You know? Come on, you fillet freaks. Krug, you better stick to fixing tripods. Okay, there are thousands of copies of this video throughout the world, and Bob Krug can't get the landing gear off his plane. How's that one wing coming? Yeah, that's good. Robert, that's nice. Yeah, that's decent.
You like Krug when he was selling buns, though, didn't you?
Krug's gonna glue his nose to the table or something. Okay.
Remember Krug's? Used to sell a bun?
No.
Around the truck?
Robert is doing excellent here. You're a prime student, boy, I'll tell you. Now force it right in. That's the whole deal.
My ancestors.
Force it right in. Even if you have to go back and forth 10 times, who cares? But get it to pack right in there and fill it in. There you go. Macho. God, you got enough there. You could build a house with that amount. If that was epoxylite, this plane wouldn't take off.
Who gave you that?
Ed Gallagher. Okay, let's see what you're doing here. All right. Okay, this is the way I always approve of. If you want to know if a material really works or doesn't work, just test it on somebody else's plane. That's the key. The key to life. Never use your own plane.
Every joke is funny as long as it's played on someone else.
That's right. Well, somebody else's wife gets mad at them for the next 2 months. Okay. That's good. And George is going to take these. We made George up 2 little test bottles.
Just trying to keep you from getting...
And we're going to, he'll know, we're going to get that electric RC plane on before the end of the week. Okay, yeah, you hold it from, that's good. All right, so by next Monday, we're going to know if these fillets work. Just dip your finger in the acetone. Look at those fillets. Man alive, I'm telling you.
Come ahead and...
Totally pro stunt. Pro pizza filleting company here. You guys could only fix tripods as good as make fillets.
Is anybody going to see this film?
Okay. All right, you guys are really cranking. I am so impressed. Tell him the turtle joke.
I told him the turtle joke.
Tell him the turtle joke again.
No joke is that good to tell the same person twice.
Oh, we're not going to hear the turtle joke tonight? Oh, man.
Put it on the video. Tell a turtle joke.
Oh, that's terrible.
Joke. It's a snail joke. Snail, turtle.
Snails and turtles are the same thing. They come from the same family.
Here, clean one of give another bit of a fly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you ought to clean that off before it's starting to harden up on Robert here. Come on.
Would that make the propeller out of balance?
No, you know what we do? We'll put that on Peabody's plane. No problem.
I was thinking of wrapping my airplane with aluminum foil.
The one, the only, Joe K. Turning the fins off the heads to get rid of the nose weight.
Do it again, Joe.
Do it again, Joe. Everybody likes to watch Joey make Super Tiger parts. Oh my God, look at that machine work. It's a thing of beauty. I wonder if we're going to find out if these fit on those Russian motors too. That'd be interesting. On a gun?
Oh, jeez.
Well, let's see the gun. Another gun enthusiast. You gonna let me shoot this today? Can we go to Wendy's with the gun?
If you want. You still taking pictures, huh?
Yeah, hey, everything is pictures. Life is pictures. Look at this handiwork. Boy, oh boy. It looks like a lot of work. Is that a handmade gun or
No.
commercial one?
Just a commercial one.
One of the things this man has done, you've made guns from scratch, right? Oh, yeah. And some of the handiwork. You got any of your handiwork down here? Any of those big chrome Dirty Harry guns?
No.
Man, if I'm going to rob a bank, that's the one I want. I want that big chrome one. These little things, they don't intimidate people. Now in Venturi production, away from the Dirty Harry gun trade, here we are making up 2,000 Venturis in one day. Not really. You know, I cheat. I have this guy set up the machine, and then I run him off after it's all set up, and then I take full credit for it. What a scam. Anyway, these are hopefully going to be enough. We'll make enough today for the rest of the year, I hope. Our projects for the day. Machining down some heads. We're going to make some real light mufflers. We got some trick stuff here. Who knows what else? Motors, parts. We haven't figured out how to make money yet. That's the only thing we haven't figured out. We're trying to do an engine repair on a case. The case has a big crack in it on the bottom. This is an old style 51. And it's an old one that actually has some muffler ears. You guys just can't take a joke. That's the whole problem. Anyway, we haven't been down a shop and done video in quite a while, even though we work here all the time. Computer-generated equipment, our great, beautiful lathe, our beautiful tool benches, and 10,000 beautiful square feet of bean footage here. Pro stunt mufflers are made right on that machine right there. Right on that sucker. 2 aluminum chips left. And back here is the machine. Oh, the old Air Force. You can tell everybody that works here flies planes. And this is the two injection molding machines for the line reels, the belt cranks, all the tooling over here. So, hey, it's a nice shop. It's a fun place to work. Nice band saws. You can really get a lot of stuff done here. Joe's trying to repair that motor back there. Any chance we saved it?
You never had it so good.
Brand new. Oh my God. A brand new exhaust flange. It lives to fly another day.
Again.
All right.
And it will right up until I fly in it.
Time for pizza. What do you say? Where's Jimmy's? You want to go for pizza? For lunch? Now back from the shop. I like to use another little technique that I'm sure you can take advantage of. Is each plane that I build, I try to use as a stepping stone to the next one. And the planes are very similar, of course. And what I tried to do, especially with propellers, all of the good props that worked well on one ship, when I like for instance, all the extra props that had worked well for Tsunami, I put into the Strega program right at the beginning. Then the ones that worked well on Strega at the beginning of Strega became the starting props for the Spitfire. So you're always working on the best stuff that you had from the year before. Now last year, especially at the Nats, we really got comfortable having this prop on the plane. Even when other people were flying the plane, they all seemed to like this prop the best. Now, what I want to do is I want to take this prop off of this plane, real carefully get the pitch an inch or so from the tip, so I can start with the 4-bladed props that I'm going to be working with now. I can start these props where this one left off. And hopefully the plane, that guy is an ounce heavier than this guy, so we're close. If anything, they're going to be real similar. So it's a good idea always to use that stepping stone building block method to develop things. At least that's the way I've had real good luck in the past doing. Now this is that old gauge or whatever you want to call it. Did this on tape, I think 39. I got this little screw mechanism here. Now the object of doing this is so important and so easy to understand. Just bolt that relatively tight and you can see the angle. If you look at it real close, let's see how close you can get on this. You can see we pretty much have the angle. It's on the bottom of the prop. Now if you hold it up to a fluorescent light, what you can see is you can just see the light under the front or the back, and that gives you the gauge of how much you want to bend. And this is the only part I really care about. However, I do try to heat the blade down here and try to just get it to contour up rather than get to the end and then bend. Try to blend each blade in. But then what I can do is just loosen one blade, go to the next one. Now by having this gauge, what this gauge allows me to do is take this prop here, which we know is dialed in. It's probably got, in other words, to arrive at what I have in this prop, the pitch and the motor load and all the other factors, and by the way, while I have it off, I'll balance it. To get to this point, we're talking about probably 200 or 300 flights of tweaking and twitching and sanding and cutting and filing and everything. Now, I got my other two. I don't want to start at ground zero. I don't want to just hit the reset button and boom, be back pitching every time I get to the field. I'd like to at least have a chance that I'm going to get it close. And just as a rough look at just how different these props really are, look how thin the blades are on this one and how little pitch there is relative to this one. Now this one is probably a 4.7 prop with the motor in a 4-cycle, and you can just see the difference. It's very, very apparent. So what it allows me to do, and if you do this even with 2-blade 10.6s, it doesn't matter. No matter what you do it with, you're always building on a program, building on the information that you already have in the data bank. Now just for openers, before we even start, let's see where we are with this pitch. It's not even close. A lot of times you get 2 blades, it's a little different. Just a little bit. Okay, so this one is the one that's different than the 3. So I'm going to take these, go get the heat gun, heat them up, get the bend in, so at least I'm starting in square one. I really don't want to start out in midair, like throwing an arrow into midair. I want to try to get the pitch in all 3 of these by the time I'm finished, real close to being the same, at least to start with. And you can see right now, I don't really know how much it is. You can see they are quite different. They really are. They're awful different, in fact. Now usually these will pitch at just about the temperature that your hands can't touch them. You notice when if you really want to dial some pitch in, you really should use an oven glove. Should just hold it up to a light. Once you get them all the same, or close to the same. Now in this case, this one's got to come back just a little bit. Once you start bending them and they're used to going back and forth, they have a little bit of a memory, and you can get them to come back relatively quickly. Oil and water, of course, works. Oh, that's hot. Works a little bit faster. Oh, too much. And you have that rough time of about a minute where you can set it. You can just hold it up on the gauge. Almost. Not too time consuming, but yet. Before I paint the props, I want to be real accurate. I want to paint one and leave one for testing, in case I need to change the pitch. Then I'll just keep the other one for a show prop. Or I can always take the lacquer thinner and take it off. Still a little bit backwards. Now Randy Smith puts these in a vise at the hub and uses a heat gun and a big wrench. That's a good way to do it. I've done it that way myself. It works well. Tom Dixon, I believe, prefers boiling water. I've seen Ted Fancher with a pot of boiling water get the pitch just right. There's a lot of hand finishing to getting one of these props just right. And of course the worst that can happen is you can always mail it to me with a coupon for a free pizza and I'll do it for you. Anyway, we're ready to paint these. The painting operation is pretty much the same. I'll just recheck the balance before I do anything. I've kind of got mirror images now, or real close to being exactly the same, so I'm hoping my starting point will be pretty close to what it was on the other one. I'm going to mask off the tips yellow, and then using black acrylic lacquer and maybe 1 or 2 coats of clear. Now one thing, while I have this prop off the plane, I can rebuff this all out with some Gorhams. Although it held up pretty well for this. This has got a whole season, including the gnats, with all those little stones hitting and everything. That's a prop that's got probably 700 flights on it, and it's 500, some 100 anyway. Still could be buffed out, rebalanced. It'll be like a brand new prop. What I want to do with this, like I said, I'm going to leave the one unpainted, but the one that I'm going to paint, I want to make it, in an attempt to make it a little more scale-like, is get the tips only 1/4 of an inch yellow, and that's probably a good
a more scale proportion. These yellow tips, if you did them to the real prop, are probably way out of scale, kind of like Lionel trains are, but since we're trying to get more and more scale detailing into the plane, this might help out. Even if it isn't, it's not a big deal either. Good. Sounds like a fire engine's just went by. Yeah, I'm going to paint these tips yellow and put this aside to dry tonight. This will be all I can do tonight. And then when I come back tomorrow, what I want to do is I want to paint this prop black and this one at the same time. And this way I'm trying to organize so I don't have to change the paint in the gun every 30 seconds. And I'll keep this one for my test prop. Now what I did, I got a little bit of time. I got one of the 5 blades out. Oops. As long as I have the paint in the gun, I may as well get another one done. Okay, we can't work on these now till tomorrow, so pretty much ends up a good day. Okay, today these parts are ready to remove the masking tape. Get outside. I don't know, it was raining before. I don't know if we're going to be able to paint today, but I can get them all prepped anyway. Now, one tip, it's always a good idea after you pull off the tape, get this area cleaned up with some M600. And one of the things I forgot to do the last time we did props, I was in such a rush and doing 80 other things here, taking Karen to the doctor and stuff. I forgot to do it, and there's little kind of imperfections come up through the paint when you don't do that. Anyway, so I did the 5 blade too, I had time here. And we're going to go over to Jeff's tonight. He's got this internet site to make it look like I'm $1 million business. Anyway, he's been working on that. He wants me to come over and see how he's doing. Now, I've always had good luck with acrylic lacquer, the black acrylic lacquer. And one of the things when you do paint a carbon prop, a wood prop, not really important, but you really should not paint the immediate part where the bolt and where the little splines are going to rub into it. I think you're better off just etching. I take the parting wheel and roughing that area up, as opposed to putting paint on it, and then what happens, the paint wants to slip when you tighten the bolt. It's really the best of all worlds not to have any paint in the middle of the prop. Every once in a while I forget to do this to a prop. We're either at the field or something, and having this surface smooth, the son of a gun, you can't tighten the prop not tight enough and it always slips. So, all right, I'm going to get ready. I'm going to try to get these painted. Black acrylic lacquer. Black acrylic lacquer is the material I prefer. I really like it a lot better than dope. Dope takes too many coats to cover. The black acrylic seems to cover in 1 or 2. And then acrylic clear on top of that. Always the middle of a prop hub, rough. No smooth surfaces. Even if you just take 80 grit sandpaper and put slices in it, it'll help. Now before I put these little back mask tips on, I always like to rub the tape up on my shirt. I know I still believe in never let me leave. I have to run away alone. So many Now, if you notice some of the different cones, they have just a little bit, well, it's hard to see this on a video because I have to hold it up in place. But they do have just a little bit of a different shape to them. And what I want to do, I want to start my
my little rubber mold to make up some more cones. Now these were made out of polyester, not made out of epoxy, and made out of e-glass. Now we have carbon now instead of e-glass, so even though these were the lightest ones I've ever seen, I think we can even get them lighter with the new material we have. And that'll, I hope, in the case of this plane, give us one more trim thing we can work on. But not only that, it gives me an appearance thing. So it dramatically changes, at least in my book, the whole look of the plane. When this curve can change, it looks like the early. These have the look of the earliest spit. These have the look of the later ones. And I kind of like the way that follows the contour. It gives it a little bit different look, having several variations on this, especially the side profile. And see, even this one, even on the Spitfire, plays a big part in, I don't know, in the look of the plane, and just that cone shape at the tip. And basically the whole thing stays the same except for the tip, and I had molded these in a solid mold. This year what I want to try to do is make up one or several rubber molds and see how that technology is going to work out. I'm looking around. I'm trying to decide here, and it's difficult which one I want to make first. I want to make the one, I guess, that has the most point or the most taper in it here. Because obviously we're going to have to make some 4-blade, 5-blade, 2-blade, 3-blade, etc. But I want to get started on one of them tonight, even though I don't have much time left here. The original part that Ron made, oh, this thing is like 100 pounds. And the only thing I wasn't crazy about was the exact contour at the tip here. So what I'm going to do is mix up a little Bondo and try to change this contour just a little bit. A couple of things. Whenever you don't use polyester resin for a long time or Bondo, it always gets that oily film on the top. You really should stir it up before you even mix a little bit. And in this case, I don't even know if this is going to be the way we want to do it, but this is one of the ways I want to explore. Now I have a little bit of that rubber, that silicone rubber left over. I have, believe it or not, having gotten what I should have by now is another batch from Florida Glue Products. They were out of stock last time I called. I don't have it yet. So I'm going to try using that up. And since this is a real simple, when I say a simple mold is always one that doesn't have any undercuts in it. Always a good idea, squeeze the heck out of this, especially if you're going to make fillets with it. And I can't wait to see how those fillets are going to work out on Sabatino's Nobler. That ought to be interesting. It's not real critical how much of this you put in, but since we want it to harden in a hurry, I'd really like to get this moving along. And again, there's an awful lot of ways to do this. There's many good ways of coming up with a mold. The hard mold, we actually did get the parts made. So, you know, somebody used to, I don't remember who it was, used to tell me when you're learning molding or experimenting, any part you get a mold out of is a good mold. Well, any mold you get a part out of, a part you get a part out of, a mold you get a mold out of. But does he really know what the heck he's talking about? I don't think so. Anyway, we want to try this. Where's my spatula? Always have the tools ready ahead of time. Now in an all-perfect world I'd have a lathe here, and I could be working off a lathe. Guess what? Not going back to the shop to use the lathe. We'll tough this out. We'll see if we can do this maybe on a drill press or just by hand. Since it's not a real ultra-critical thing, I just want to put on more material than I'm going to really ultimately need. And then I'll kind of grind this off once it hardens up. This thing is so out of round. The only reason it's going to work is because I'm only doing just a little tip. If I was trying to get a diameter on this, you really should do this in a lathe. But for my purposes, I think this will be fine. I'm just trying to get that little tip shape different. trying to sight these up to see if I have, it's close anyway. That's about all I'm going to get time to work on tonight. Time to go play internet with Jeff. Now I guess you remember, this is one of the things I want to be sure I get on the video. This is from Miller Stevenson. I'll put the address on here, or the phone number, before the tape is out. Let's see if I can find an 800 number for you. The local number is 203-743-4447. The reason I said this is I've tried all kinds of, and believe me, my rocket scientist bench is just loaded with all kinds of release agents, and we tried poly release and RTV and everything, but for sure now we've hit on what I hope is a real good combination. Now this is the rubber 7130 that doesn't need this is a rubber that's not supposed to have a release agent, but we ran into what I hope is a good tip I can put on the video. What happens with this rubber, it is real soft, and in time the epoxy starts to, it just gets a rough, deteriorated surface. So what they suggested when I talked to them on the phone about, I was getting maybe 25 sets out of a mold before the mold would kind of get really ratty. Well, when I talked to the people at Miller Stevenson, they sent me this a while back and I never really used it. This is probably, I guess, a $6 or $7 can. It'll last forever doing what I'm doing. But what it does, it makes the release of the product, when that comes out, it just falls out. Well, you can almost, I can't do it with one hand missing, but you can see it just delaminates. It doesn't stick at all. Now, even though this is a non-stick rubber, it's made so it doesn't need a release agent. The silicone rubbers RTV don't really need a release agent. Using this stuff makes it absolutely impossible to stick apart. It really works well. Just to give you an idea, using that release agent, now these parts, I used to go to the sink with the RTV and I used to have to beat them out with a hammer and use pliers and everything. So this is really a tip worth its weight. It's one of those tips he says worth its weight in gold. Another thing, when I made this little test mold up, I embedded 2 little pieces of wood in here to save material. But what happens is it just makes for a very convenient, and I'll try to keep that in mind as I'm learning, and believe me, I am at the bottom of the learning curve. But even at the bottom of the learning curve with this stuff, you can get parts out that are very reasonable. Now what I do is after each, even though they tell you don't need to do this, what I really don't want happening is you get, each time you run the mold, you get a little imperfection and the mold wears out. Now I've got about, I'd have to go count them, I probably made 10 out of this already. But the nice part about this release agent is there's no mixing. Just spray it in. And I just let that drip and drool out. Let that sit for 2 minutes and that's ready to pour another set of exhausts. The thing we learned in the process, we also used the West resin now. And the West resin with the relatively, I gotta go get the number, the quick kicker, it kicks off in about an hour or two. If I really had to, I could make more than 1 part a day, but it's always best to leave them in a mold overnight. I think that's one of the other lessons I've learned. I embed these little strips now of Bob Violet carbon in each one, so they're nice and solid. Gives me a nice base to sand against. And the reason I'm spending so much time on this is really a little test prototype, so that when I actually get to do a fuselage, I can make all my mistakes in this scale instead of making something that it would be probably $100 for the material if I screw it up. I'd rather screw up these little parts. It's like just a practice run. And once you get the little kinks worked out, it's beautiful. By the way, it's West number 205 hardener, and this is what I like about using the West resin. Each can comes with a little pre-metered pump. It's a 3-to-1 system. Your hands never touch it. You don't have to unscrew caps or anything. I put a little bit of the dye in each batch. I can dye these any color, rust color, black, white, whatever. The stuff mixes up real nice. As soon as I get a little mix going,
And again, this is why I've been experimenting so long, because I know, now for instance, if I just run these without the Cabasil, I know I don't get the edges to be nice and sharp. By putting a little bit of Cabasil in there, I know I can get those edges nice. And those props are drying up from yesterday. I can get the props detailed out. I'm just looking at all the projects. It's a real rainy day out there, but tomorrow is supposed to be nice, so Joe and I are anticipating getting another day of flying a double star. I want to make up a tongue muffler for the double star with a pressure fitting. Another thing we want to try, we want to see if Super Tiger heads fit on a double star, because we have various compression ratios. I only have 5 head gaskets, and they're all in the engine right now, so we'll have an interesting day as long as it doesn't rain.
And as soon as that, see, now we're going to have trouble painting outside today. That's another thing. We might not be able to paint the props, so unless it stops raining, it's really not a great idea to be painting in the rain. Good trick you can probably try if you ever want to turn anything in a drill press. You see, it's a poor man's lathe. And what I have is this is one of the old cones from last year. And what it does, it just snaps on a chuck. Now, if it didn't snap on a chuck, you could wrap some duct tape. Again, you don't need $1 million machine to make any of these. Actually, you don't need any real exotic tools to make a model airplane. Now, if it spins crooked, you can just keep truing it up. You're not looking to make a rocket ship here. This is just going to be a plug. Now, the object of the shop vac is, the reason I'm putting a shop vac on here is I don't want to breathe all this dust in. Even with a mask, I have the vise holding this, and it doesn't really even have to, for our purposes, it doesn't have to spin perfectly true. All we need to do is get this to be a nice contour. For right now, we'll get this trued up as the last step. You can see the dust kind of goes right into the vacuum. Real nice. Carbide sandpaper we had from England. It works great on this. Doesn't clog up, doesn't load up. Now we can finalize it off. Piece of duct tape around a chuck. Now I'm ready to start getting this trued up for the final finish. And the duct tape actually holds it pretty decent. Give it a little spin, see how close it is. Not too bad. Get the shop back on. Feel a contour, and again what I'm looking for is a few different contours in the front so I can replicate late model spits, early model spits. There's really a variation in spinner shapes. I'd like to make the molds for all of them right now if I could.
Automatically covered the infield and the pitcher's mound with tarp as if there was to be another game of fun.
There's a couple of little imperfections in this. What I'm going to do is fill these in with some Bondo, and while this is drying I want to make up the other part of the mold. Again, I'm trying to use time management here. It's a rainy day and I try to get all the jobs that I normally have to do inside done on a day like today. I like to get old Tsunami set up and hope that tomorrow's a flying day. Boy, the weather is so unpredictable. I'm sure it's the same way all over the country too. Again, what I have here is I need to get that little spatula. There's some little imperfections up here. Polyester is a good way to fix them. This will dry in 5 or 10 minutes. It's also a good way to fill in. Again, whenever you do polyester, you always have air bubbles and little imperfections that need to be filled in. We have several good materials at this. I have the Bob Violet stuff. I have Rage. There's many good materials, but this is the easiest way I know of to fill these in, is just give it a thin coat of the Bondo. It'll kick off in 10-15 minutes and we'll be ready to sand this out, get a final finish on this. It looks like we've got real close to the contour that I'd like to have for the final mold here. Again, it's such a critical thing to get that contour. Have you ever seen a plane, and no end to the amount of planes, even my own, that you get all done, you put the spinner on the plane and you say, what's wrong with this picture? Gee, that spinner just looks, it just doesn't have the look that you had in your mind. And I've done, even after I've sanded the spinner that I'm going to use into the top block, after it's painted and sanded and shaved and glassed, and something just doesn't look right. So I want to really make sure this is one of the little areas I want to target for getting it as good as I possibly can. It's so hot in the house here with the heat on, the stuff's starting to kick already into cheese. But I can remember it was just a year ago, almost a year ago today, in fact, when I look back at the videos, that I tried to make the original parts, and I really had, there's 4 videos of mistakes. Well, you know, the learning curve is very steep in the beginning, but after a while, once you see those parts coming out, oh my God, does that open the door to some real fine modeling. Some real nice stuff can come from that. Okay, this can go away to dry now till it's ready to be sanded out. Spinners that, we have an extra one obviously. And what I want to do, I want to use this. I like this contour. So this is one of the ones that I want to have. I want to take and block off these little prop holes with some plywood, fill this in with Bondo, and I can have this, and I'll have in effect 3 different plugs to make the mold from. I'm just going to lay in 3 little pieces of the 64th plywood and then fill this little area in with Bondo, and I can dress this off and use this for a plug too. Now again, the reason I'm trying to make multiple cavities here, it'll also give me a chance to test a couple of different little techniques for doing this. Otherwise I can only really make 1 part a day. This way I can, if I get through what will amount to be a 3 cavity mold, I'll have 3 different contours of spinners available. I can also make 3 a day when I want to go into production. Now it would be nice, one of the things we're looking for is, since Ron is not available right now, he's busy at work, to make some back plates. If anybody out there has a machine shop and they would like to trade some, we already have one candidate. Leroy Black wants some spinners and he's offered to make some back plates, so we may have these available, maybe not. You never know. You never really know. Or somebody has a friend that's got a lathe. I just don't have the time to go down a shop and whittle these out. But I would be glad to make a deal for X amount of back plates for some cones, and this is the part that's labor intensive. Once you have a setup on a lathe for doing these, you can probably make them relatively quickly. Don't everybody volunteer at once. Actually, we'll probably set up to do some of these down at the machine shop. The trouble is that Joe K's health is always questionable. You know, he's in remission now with his cancer, but it's still a problem. I really don't like to push him or get involved in any heavy-duty projects where he might feel guilty that he couldn't work on them full-time or whatever. But anyway, let's get a volunteer going. I know there's somebody out there who wants some of these lovely, and you can save all this work, all this hand labor. And the world of Spitfires and Seafires will have
Actually, these spinners would probably look real cool on a Cardinal, or on a Walt Prey plane, or a Midgley plane, or something. And when they're all done, especially the ones that are going to come out of the molds now, here it's going to cheese right now, these will be, there'll be nothing on the planet lighter, period. Nothing lighter. I glued this is the first plug, and I'm going to do this 3 different ways. I glued this first plug onto a piece of plywood, 16th plywood, and I want to take some Bondo now and fill in that little gap, because of course I have a rough edge. This is a rough thing from when we originally did the spinners, but this contour I'm real happy with. That was one of the ones I'm sure I'm going to want to use this one of them anyway. A razor blade is real good for packing it into those corners. Again, I'm trying to come up with a couple of different ways of making this mold. Again, I've learned a lot of, I don't know, basics, but once you get to a certain point, you gotta, in this case, I want to get this right on the first shot if I can. And of course, I'll sand this out. If you ever were a young kid and you did your own body work, like I'm sure almost everybody did, unless you have some kind of rich father, you did all this body work and you were so proud of it, you didn't realize years later you'd be using it on model planes. And of course, as soon as this kicks, then I can sand it back down. Now what I'm going to try on this plug, I'm going to try to use this for a mold where this is the bottom of the mold and I pour the rubber in on this side, and then I want to try one the other way, even though the other way I know air bubbles rise rise to the top and can be a problem. But because this doesn't have any reverse cuts, I might be able to get away with this. Okay, these are all drying up. Now what I'm going to do is give these a final sanding. These have to dry for quite a while, at least a half an hour before I give them a final sanding, and then I want to give them some kind of a finish. And while we're doing that, I can work on the third plug, and I should get all the plugs done today. Way to sand this kind of a contour, and I remember several people telling me one of the nicest things they picked up off the video is how to do some oddball, I'd call this an oddball type of sanding. I want to get a little bit of a curve in there, so it's better to do it with this kind of a rotation. And I should be ready pretty soon to put a final finish on this. Yeah, it sanded out really nice. I want to put a coat of clear finish on this now.
Everybody had to go out and bring back the strangest, most broken down thing he could find.
I want to try each one with a different coating. This one has that resin spray, it's art supply stuff, and it leaves a real shiny coating. I don't know which one of these, I don't know if these are even going to be compatible with the rubber, but this is the only way I'm going to know, is by having done these for a test. And it's a good time to do it. Okay, I got the poly test drying. Got this guy, this resin spray drying. Again, what I'm trying to do is establish the compatibility. And believe me, all the things all these brochures, pamphlets, and everything, yeah, they're all fine. You know what? If you do a test, I think you're better off, and this is a good test. If it doesn't work, I'll just wipe this off with lacquer-thinners or acetone and try something else. But again, I'm trying to build up my database for all this kind of technology. I want to make up a box. What I did, I looked around for some jars. Notice I'm just walking this out and putting dots. I thought I'd be able to use a jar, but I don't have a jar the right size, and I was thinking I'll get all done with the jar, and then I'll have to break the jar at the end. Well, I think this will work out a little bit better. I want to make up a box, and I want to put corners in the box. What I'm looking to try to do is save as much material as possible, make it in a round. Obviously, I can't make a round box, but by bending the corners, then I can make kind of an octagon. So now I can just fold this box back. And again, when you start doing this kind of stuff, you never realize what a pain in the neck it is making all these little boxes, and I can just walk it back and I'll have a pretty good idea of where this mold is going to end. I like to let this kick off. It doesn't have to be a perfect box, of course, because all we're trying to do is confine that spinner. Now what I want to do is on the bottom, I want to make triangle pieces, but I want to kerf them out down at the bottom so that down at the bottom there's more of the molding rubber than there is, just to save material. I just radiused off the bottom here, nothing fancy. I gotta wait for this to dry up, and then I'll just duct tape this to the bottom. And the idea of this type of a mold is the air bubbles rise to the top, they don't stay on the mold. I've had more luck doing it this way than the reverse, where you just put the plug on the top. Okay, and I just duct tape these pieces in, so once I really feel they're dried off, actually I can make the third one while I'm waiting for this to dry. Try to use this if I can. What I did, I made a 1/8" plywood cap so I can confine the metal plug in here. And maybe, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I may grind this away. Anyway, I want to use this as my cone, confining the cone this way. And I'm just wondering if that's going to be, yeah, I guess that'll work. Oh, the only problem is I have to cut the top off of this. Now, I'll put duct tape around this just to make it leak-proof at the bottom. Try to make this leak-proof on the bottom until you have to go taking it apart. Now I'll have 3 different choices, 3 different types of molding here, and let's hope one of them, well, I hope one of them is going to be exactly what we want, but we'll have 3 shots, and even if all 3 fail, we'll do it over. We never quit. Okay, I'm mixing up the rubber. I'm getting ready to pour this guy. Now I don't know if I'm going to get one mold poured out of this. This is all that's left of that initial batch I had. I'm being real careful to stir it, get the catalyst totally stirred in here. Now this is a rubber that's it's a non-silicone rubber, not a tin or a platinum cured rubber. So it's very inexpensive. So if I can make this work, this is about a third or a fourth the price of the silicone, the RTV. And all I need to do is use that mold release agent, since there's no undercuts in this mold. That's why I'm kind of excited about using this. And if it doesn't work, it's no big deal. We'll rip the mold apart and do it over again. It's all part of the game.
Nothing else for me to my dear old Ronnie.
Now the trick here is not to trap any air if possible, so I'll pour it a little bit at a time. And I want to pour just enough to cover the spinner tip up.
waiting for me, praying for me.
So I don't know how far this is going to go.
The folks up north will see me no more when I go to that Swanee.
Now it's a mistake to pour it real fast. You always trap a lot of air. It's good to pour it up against the sides and let it work toward the primary part. And we'll find out here. And I don't know if I'm going to get 2 pours out of this, 2 of these cavities, or 1 or what. Like I've gotten 2 cavities out of this. What I'm going to try to do is just raise the level. I'm putting some filler blocks in along the side. Again, I just want to have enough of a base on here. And the only purpose of this is I want to raise the level. If I had a little more of this rubber, I wouldn't even bother doing this. But I do have some urethane rubber that I'm going to try to use. Let's see, we got a small... I do have some urethane rubber left over to fill that 3rd cavity, the one made with the jar. There you can see the air bubbles already rising to the top. I'll do the other one off camera. I got to get some of that urethane rubber. I have a little bit left over. Maybe I don't even have enough. But at least I'll have 3 tests. I'll let this sit over the weekend and hope we get at least 1 good cavity out of all of this. Hey, this is the urethane rubber, just for my own information. I put the bolt in the vise, try to hold this up so it's perfectly level. Of course, when we're going to be laying up a part, assume this is a good cavity, I'll have a nice flat surface to work with there. Again, you can see the bubbles lifting, coming right to the surface. What I want to try, the little bit of time I have left, I want to set this up with a tongue muffler. We don't have, first off, a couple things. We don't have a pressure fitting on here. That's one thing. I want to be able to run muffler pressure, no muffler pressure. I'll do a little storyboard about why I want to do this. I also want to come back and be able to see how this particular airplane will fly with this. I'm sure is at least 2 ounces, an ounce less of nose weight. So I'll be able to get both of those things accomplished as soon as I get a tongue muffler to right. Now this is not Tiger spacing. I have to make a special one up. Okay, the stock muffler. Let's see what we got on our grain scale here. 56 would be 2 ounces. It's a grain under 2 ounces. Now a motor without a prop nut is 280 would be 10 ounces. 292, this is about 10 1/4, 10 1/2 ounces, depending on if you have an aluminum nut. Anyway, just a little look in the exhaust. Everything looks real good. Now we've got about a gallon on this. It's got all 5 of the head gaskets that we have. We need to get some more head gaskets. Now the standard tongue mufflers are about 12 grams, just roughly, depending if you have a pressure fitting or how much goop is inside of them. So that should be a difference of 1 3/4 ounces off the nose of the plane. Now this is one of the things. These are some of the tests we want to try. The motor came from Tom Dixon with a SIG plug, and it seems to work fine with that plug, but I also want to check if we get a test there. I want to try a Fox, and I want a Thunderbolt. Now, you can change, the way the run characteristics change is by the heat range in an engine. Now this motor has, stock has relatively high compression. High compression motors usually are happier with cool plugs, not cold, cool plugs. Low compression, and as we lower the compression, We get a more and more dramatic stunt run, a 2-4 brake. The lower the compression, the more that'll be. But they need hotter and hotter plugs, which is why the Thunderbolt and the Fox, hot, hot, hot. You almost can't put a plug that's too hot in a low compression engine. So that's one of the significant tests that we want to try the next time we get out to fly. Now, by having the muffler that comes on the engine, the barrel muffler, we want to have these choices. And that's basically 2 ounces. Little tongue mufflers, let's just for sake of argument call it a 1/2 ounce. But here's what happens is, when you look at the plane from the front, a lot of times, depending on what design it is, this muffler is below the center, the vertical center of gravity. So you'll be changing it the same way as if you add a carbon prop to the top of the center of gravity. You can vary the vertical center of gravity, not so much the front to back, even though that'll change too, but this will change in the relative way the plane wants to fly on the line, certain parts of trim. Now, I noticed it was pretty well balanced when it had the heavy muffler on, so we might lose some performance by having a tongue on. But again, you're not going to know until you try it. Now, also, the other test I want to run. Let's pretend the tank is here, muffler. I have a pressure fitting. Now, I didn't have a pressure fitting, and I have the uniflow, the overflow. Now, I didn't have a pressure fitting when we got the stock muffler from Tom, but our tongue muffler is going to have one. So the first thing I can do is I can try it uniflow. These are just some of the choices I can try. And again, I can custom tailor that run. I can run uniflow. And just by taking the tube off, and putting the tube on, I'm saying, I can run uniflow, muffler pressure. And again, if you're going to do real testing, you can't just go out to the field, try one thing, say, wow, it works great, whoopee-doo, and that's it. You might have more potential than you know. Now, some of the other choices, you have a lot of mufflers because they have a lot of back pressure. A high back pressure muffler will kill a 2-4. It'll kill the motor. And if you have a too restrictive muffler of any kind, or if the tailpipe is too small of a diameter, now on that muffler that comes with the motor, 385 is just about right. But if you were to restrict this in an attempt to quiet it down, what happens is you put so much pressure into this that you almost get no motor run. So when you want to compare 2 mufflers, again, we've already done this test, and we have the tongue muffler. What we want to check is the needle set. If you have to open it or close it, you want to know, is it going to use more fuel or less fuel? If it uses less fuel, it's probably going to be running a little bit less efficient. Now, that doesn't sound right. It sounds like it's backwards, but it's not always true. Because what will happen if you have a totally unrestricted muffler, if it's wide open, like on a Merco, it's going to use a lot of fuel. That alcohol that goes through the motor makes it run cool. As it's running more and more cool, you're in an attempt to get the needle set, you're changing the mileage back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So what I'm looking to do is get my tongue muffler to run right about, now we were running 3 turns out, just roughly in cool weather. If I know, if all of a sudden I have to run this at 2.5 turns, too restrictive, and if all of a sudden I have to go to 3.5 turns, it's too wide open. And on a later model tongue mufflers, there's 8 holes, and you can, these 4 are tapped with 632 screws, or you can vary the restriction. But what we're trying to do is simulate about the same back pressure and the same mileage, which is using a little over 4 ounces for doing a stunt pattern. We're trying to simulate this with the idea in mind that we can switch then back and forth without having a dramatic change in the needle valve setting. Now, if you're looking for all-out power, if this engine is in a 75-ounce plane, big, heavy, restrictive plane, you're going to want to run a wide-open muffler. If it's in a small plane, now when we put this in Joe Adamusco's smaller plane that he wants to test it in, and that'll probably be next week or the week after, we might want to choke it down and restrict it a little bit more. Again, you can vary the power, the total 2-cycle power you can vary not only with a pressure fitting so that you get a dramatic 2-4 brake, but you can control the total overall power. Not only the head gasket, but the muffler restriction and the Venturi. And it's these combinations that when you get a nice combination that you're real happy with and it suits your purposes, that's when all your testing pays off. At a Venturi size, and since this is pretty much a copy of a Big Jim 60, the Venturi on a Big Jim 60 usually winds up about 315, but it's got a totally different diameter spray bar, so it's really an irrelevant number. I don't know, I don't want to take the spray bar apart here, but until I can take this out and replace the whole Venturi, it really isn't a relative number for two reasons. The spray bar may or may not be 156. The other problem is, it's not a problem, it's a difference, is this has a taper to it. This has a flute. A Big Jim Venturi is a straight tube, so you do get different flow characteristics, different mileage characteristics. I mic this up. It's difficult to do without taking the engine apart at 315, which is, see what they've done, the people that manufacture the motor, what they've done is, by copying another motor, what they haven't taken into account is a Big Jim 60 has, for all purposes, a straight tube. And the tube, at least the ones that I've been real successful with, is a 315. Okay, but when you make a flute with any kind of taper at all, and it's only 315 here, this flows more. So in effect, it's like having a bigger Venturi. But again, it only means it may be that you want a bigger Venturi. You may want a smaller one, but what we need to do eventually with this motor is make up a variety of Venturis if we're going to wind up using that needle valve. And we need to compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. I need to make up some straight throat Venturis. Now, I've always found in the past, and Craig Gunder found this out too, I guess the hard way we all learned this stuff, is by putting flutes in the Venturi, the motor run was not as stable as when it was a straight tube. And the length is also critical. If you make this length long, you'll get a stable motor run. You just look at a Fox 35, and if it's short, up to a point, it'll be unstable. In other words, more 2/4 brake. So we also might want to make up a Venturi that's 1/8 of an inch shorter, and one that's 1/8 of an inch longer for our own personal tuning. Let's not misunderstand what I'm getting. For 99% of the people, the way the motor comes stock, it'll be fine. All I'm trying to do, as long as I'm going to spend X amount of hours, these are the variables, muffler, prop. And we've really only had the one prop on the plane. The weight of the plane. These are all things that can that predetermine how you want to tune the motor. And I will in the very near future, it may be very soon in fact, I'm going to make up a complete tuning chart of all the things that have worked on the Super Tiger motors, with the idea in mind that what we're trying to do is be able to pass that information on to other people in a way that, and there's several others, the muffler, the head gasket, the compression, the fuel. And if you were to have a computer and you start running off the potential combinations, all of these, none of these, and you start doing that, you'll make yourself crazy. So what you really need to know is the direction you want to go in. The direction is always more stability or less stability. You want to make the motor brake harder or run more consistent. And all these, we're going to get a whole video on this in the near future, and it would apply basically to Tigers, but since this motor is a pretty good copy of a Tiger. In fact, I kind of like the motor, and the fact that it's a little lighter than a Tiger, I think it's got a place in the future of the stuff that Joe and I are doing. Making up some Venturis, because we really don't have the time to make a bunch of these up. What I want to do is I'm going to go pick up a couple of those green air filters, because by putting a green air filter on here, I can simulate a little bit smaller Venturi, and then by taking it off, I can accomplish some of my fine tuning just by taking the air filter on and off. Usually they'll run a harder 2/4 brake without the air filter,
and the air filter, because it's restricting the airflow, usually will mute the engine 2.4 brake just a little bit. Same way a fuel filter does. Now, first thing I got to do is get some bolts made up to attach that tongue muffler. Since it's a different thread, these are metric thread bolts on this engine. Now, it's my understanding that Tom has available mufflers already drilled out and made up for this, both barrel and tongue, so rather than go through this aggravation, you may want to get one right from him. Tiger, of course, is 1.5 inches exact, and we're trying to go edge to edge here. Looks like it might be 650. I don't know. It's probably a metric size. 1/650. 640. What I'm going to do is look through my collection of junk and see if I have any that already have that hole pattern, and apparently not. This was a nice muffler, by the way. See, now the Rossi has an adjustable hole in the back, but not really appropriate to what we're doing. I want to get a tongue on there. Now see, these holes are really quite a bit wider, so I'm going to have to improvise here. Now the only one it looks like, and this isn't even a Tiger muffler, I don't know what the hell this is. I think this is Barry Mays' old muffler. I don't know if I'm going to even be able to do this. I know mine, the bolts are on too much of an angle, so these have the holes just a little bit further apart. I'm going to have to use nuts on this, and this really isn't going to be a totally valid test, but it'll be better than nothing. Kind of an unrestricted, this is like a Jimmy Casale muffler, unrestricted. And then the idea we're using this as being too unrestricted, that's not going to be a real valid test. And I'm trying, this is starting to get to be, see, the reason I'm using the rod is I can bend the rods and make up for some of that play. I can make a special, well, you see that rod is soft, so it tends to take the bend. I think that's going to give us more of a valid test than that real unrestricted. This must have been one of Casale's old mufflers or something. You could reach in and replace the piston with it. It is light though. Now, even though this isn't the greatest way in the world to do this, this will get us through a test. And we don't, believe it or not, one of the weaknesses in this whole thing is I have all the mufflers pre-tapped for Tigers. I really should have left a couple of them blank. We'll remember that next time we run a run of mufflers.
I feel so strange.
You remember the first time we ever met?
It was on the beach.
Now we know we want to start 3 turns out. Because this may be a little less restrictive, we'll go another half a turn out just for the first run so we don't have a lean run. I also want to get on this so we have it ready for the test. We're going to have the mufflers, the plugs. I have some Thunderbolt plugs now. And I also want to make sure this prop is balanced. This is the prop we actually flew at the Nats with. And I know this is a 14.5 rev up cut to 13 1/8. I know this really loads a motor up. If it'll turn this prop without a problem, even with those head gaskets in there, it's probably going to be plenty good. Anyway, Joe is going to be bringing down the 3 blades and some of the other props we want to try. Every session we get with this, I'm sure it'll be just a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit better. And what it does is then when you start off, you can kind of start where we left off. You don't have to go back and do 2,000 tests.
Let it go. Why can't I let you know? Why can't I let you know a song? The storm, keep your chin up high. And don't be afraid, song along the wind, walk on.
Now with this motor and a tongue muffler, for right around 60 ounces with all the lightweight stuff. We got the lightweight wheels, the lightweight muffler, the lightweight spinner, and that prop. That's usually about the lightest that this would fly at. No, it just goes to show you and this is a good example, with a heavier muffler, the chrome spinner, the carbon prop, the heavy wheels, the long landing gear, we could vary the weight of the model by 5-6 ounces. But my feeling is right now we just want to try that muffler out before we get into anything else here. See, that's what's nice. If you have a plane that's light to begin with, you can play with the weight. If the plane is already too heavy, too tail heavy, whatever, you're kind of screwed. Anyway, it's an old plane. It's been in a total rebuild, a total repair, and we're still getting some testing out of it. So this is what I always try to, promote anyway, is planes that last. They stand the test of time. For sure, this will fold a wing now next week. Okay, we're ready to load up. I guess this was about as productive as it gets for a rainy day. And we'll know more with each session that goes. We'll know a little bit more than we knew the time before. And we're always willing to pass it on, and we encourage you to pass it on.
That a song such as ours came to be, but I always knew
Now we're at the end of this tape, and rather than be in the middle of something when we end it, I'm just going to go over what I'm going to try to accomplish on the next couple of tapes. First, we're going to try to finish these props up and make them both flyable and show props, of course, both kinds. We're making up some more spinner cones. Be trying to upgrade, I should say, the exhaust manifold, the little tooling that we have for that, and finalize all our props. Maybe even get another day of testing 4 blades on the double star. And again, the purpose of the videos is so that you can share the hobby with us, share the information that'll make it a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fun, a lot less expensive. And it's up to you to pass that along. Not just to glom it up and then go have pizza. Pass it on. See you on the next tape.
Cuando son las llamadas Mama,